Felicitations, my family of fledglings. And ghosts, it's so good to unsee you as well. My name is Damien Halme, for those who are meeting me for the first time. I'm a professional disruptor of your mundane, banal, empty, repetitive life, helping you optimize, critically discern, and open up all of the closed, automatic parts of your lives so that you can do better tomorrow and next year and the rest of your life. Hi, welcome. We also sometimes play games. Wednesdays are usually meant for deeper conversation, and Saturdays and Sundays are usually meant for games. However, the whole schedule will be changing very soon. I think I'll probably be streaming all 3 of those days going forward. Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. But the when and the how and the if there's more or less, there's a lot up in the air right now. I'm in talks with a couple very important people in my life as to the future of content creation and how this is going to look for brand building. Part of that is I need more VOD content out than live content out, and that requires a significant amount of editing. So I'm talking to somebody who is potentially looking into becoming an editor for me, but we don't know that for sure. We're still in talks phase. And Oz has some big life decisions to make that will also possibly impact the future of streaming for both of us. Not that she's just gonna quit streaming. That's not the conversation to be had. But more so, how much of what and what are we gonna be doing with our future professional selves will be decided in the next few weeks. So this is all changing very quickly. On top of all of this, the Crotch Goblins had the audacity to end their own summer break. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't them. They didn't. They would have kept on summer break forever because it means lots of splash park and movies and staying up late and all sorts of fun things. But tomorrow, the Crotch Goblins go to school orientation, and we do too, to learn about the new teachers and expectations for the school year. And then on Monday, they start. That fast. Oh yes, that fast. So it's all coming to a head. And when they start school, Oz and I have the house to ourselves for a while until they're off school and take the bus home. So that potentially means opportunities to stream during the day. Now, I still, at the time of this recording, have a day job that is not content creation. And so Oz and I have some conversations to have as far as what she wants to do for work, for content creation, for the pursuit of her happiness overall. And there's conversations to be had with me and my current status at my day job, which some of you know. Damn, my local district doesn't start for like 3 more weeks. Damn. Did you start summer break in June, though? Because I think the thing with the Crotch Goblins is it's not that they have a shorter summer break. I think it's that they start sooner. Because they started in May. So it could just be that. We started like late May. Okay. So there's a good chance that you're on the same like length of breaks. You just started at different times. Started the 25th. Okay. Could be that. Yeah. Last year when I should say this time last year, when the crotch goblins started school, I committed myself to being a streamer until maybe about 2 a.m. my time. This doesn't matter to you because this is like old schedule, so I'm not doing it in terms of what this is in your time zone. About 2 a.m. my time zone, and we would wake up at just a little bit before 6 a.m. to prep and get the kids ready to wake up and eat food and wear clothes and all that sort of stuff. The things you do for school. Wearing clothes. Blasphemous. No, just kidding. Probably wear clothes if you're going to school. And it was... The nights that I streamed were pretty awful. Like the next morning, I'd wake up in so much despair. I think with 4 hours of sleep, when I wake up at the 4-hour mark, I am so bereft of resources. I feel like I cannot tackle the day. And for a year, I did anyway. I would wake up and I would make breakfast. First, wake up the kids. Then Oz would help them get dressed because she knows their clothing situation better. It's not that I don't want to know about my kids' clothes, but we're sort of like compartmentalizing. So Oz would do the let's get dressed, let's pick out your outfits, let's find what's clean and what's not and sort of thing. And I would go downstairs and do the food prep. I'd start on breakfast. If I finished breakfast before they came downstairs, I'd start on lunch, their packed lunches. And we liked it that way. Oz likes, her tasks. I like my tasks. It worked out okay. But the 4 hours of sleep prior were awful. I would wake up and I know if I wake up and fall back asleep and let Oz try to be woken up by an alarm, like neither Oz nor I can predict how much energy and awakeness and capability she has to be roused by her alarm, or where her phone ends up in the middle of the night, and so many other things. And so we both trust that I will wake up to my alarm and I will set the pace for the day. And that's no slight. That's just, again, compartmentalizing. We both trust each other to do our best tasks to make sure that the household works out properly. But I would wake up so tired after 4 hours and so feeling like I couldn't possibly make it through the day. And I always would. That's the thing. I always would. I'd make it. I'd make it maybe with, instead of eating lunch during my lunch break at work, I would just take an hour-long sleep and we would make it work. But I feel like this year, starting with this school year, I have to maintain my health better. I've already been clawing back little bits of mental health, of diet and body shape and size, and just all these little things slowly gaining back who I am, what defines me. And I think not that sleep defines me, but the lack of it definitely starts to unravel my definition. So if I'm not cautious, if I'm not preventative, my previous way of handling sleep, or basically ignoring it and hoping that I'll do okay anyway, I think it will eventually catch up to me, cause some deleterious effects, really harm me in the long haul, possibly create some chronic situations if I'm not careful. So I really do want to value sleep over everything else. I don't know how that's going to affect streaming. The kids have been up really, really late every night, and so if I stream after they go to bed and then wake up before they are woken up for school, that leaves me with like nothing on any streaming night, unless I only stream on Friday nights and Saturday nights where we're certain they don't have school the next morning, which is a thought. But their sleep schedule also has to change. They're up late and they cannot be. They also must have sleep for school. So if they go to sleep earlier, I can potentially stream earlier, which screws some of you over who can only join the stream later. The people I'm talking to right this moment live probably aren't those people, but some folks who are later than you or who live in different time zones and can only come at certain times, they will be affected by a time change. But the problem is, I will always have time changes. In fact, going forward for the next, more than 10 years, I will be held by the schedule of the littles. When they're on summer break, I will want a different schedule. When they're back in school, I will want a different schedule. I feel like I will have to vacillate through this no matter what. Stuart, hello. Hi and welcome. Hope you're able to get some sleep. I have not slept a full 8 hours, except if I call out sick and Oz Field's taking care of the kids. It naturally by myself, I haven't. The max I usually allow myself is 6 hours, and that really, doing 6 hours means I am sacrificing some productivity, some tasks I need to get done, some chores around the house. Like I have to be a slacker in the things that need to get done in order to get sleep, which I know isn't slacking, but in my head, that's what I'm calling myself if I get 6 hours. Normally I get 4 to 5, which is not sustainable. And yet somehow I've done it for 6 years or so. If you don't mind me throwing this out there, dieting is easier if you think of yourself as a person who eats clean. Oh, I like that. A diet is temporary, isn't fun, and won't keep in the long run. Eating clean is a lifestyle choice and will last way longer. I very much like that. We already in our household do not keep processed foods, high fructose corn syrup. We're pescatarian of protein choices, so we will eat dairy, as most pescatarians do. We will eat dairy and we will eat eggs. Milk is fine, cheese is fine, all kinds of cheeses. But if it's a actual like meat, it will be of the sea. And so we do okay. Oz and I are doing better about sugar than we ever have before, but we still have room to grow. And caloric intake, I'm doing better on the lower side than I had been during, some of you know. Oz is doing better on the higher side, so we're both making better choices. But it's slow, and the older you get, because neither one of us is fresh out of college. I know, surprise, surprise. You all thought. Everything that we choose to do, every good choice, good path, good new habit that we take on, we have to be extra patient because our bodies don't react fast like they used to. When we were young and we made a change, that change occurred in weeks or months amounts of time, very fast. And that sort of, you make the change, you see the reward done, is very encouraging. When you are older and your body snaps to everything slower, I feel like it's easy to lose those goals, to drop the pattern and habits you just made because you're not seeing the progress. And it's there, it's happening. It's just a lot slower. Everything's going to be slower. And I know this, so I'm able to sort of trick my mind into just putting it away and allowing myself the lifestyle for much longer so I can see the changes happen in slow time instead of quitting well before I ought to. Let's catch up in chat. Concern? Huh? Hopefully you can find a way to get more sleep. Oz and I are going to be talking about this over the course of the next, I want to say like 2 weeks. She has some things to talk about. I'm not trying to be cryptic. We'll go into that stuff. She has some things to talk about to settle on her side of things, and I have ideas, but they require a lot of careful and cautious strategizing. And I encourage any of you, if you come from a background of knowledge in these matters or not, I do not hold a bias for or against subject matter experts. If you don't know what you're talking about, I don't necessarily presume that I'm going to weigh your opinion less. I think best idea wins, period, regardless of your background. You know what I mean? So I'll share with you sort of what we're discussing and feeling out, and I'd love your opinion on the matter, because we all want to see this succeed, I presume. I presume everybody who's watching this, whether you're watching this live or on VOD, if you've gotten this far, especially if you've gotten this far on VOD, and you're still watching me in real time instead of just skipping to another video or skipping ahead to the end of the stream to see if I actually played a game tonight. If you're here watching in real time, you're probably interested in seeing where this whole project with my social media brands goes, how it will support us as a household. Will it be the way that Oz and I can live where we live and raise kids and put food on the table every night, sort of thing? Yeah. And sleep, I do want that to be a part of that. Good sleep for real, it's mad important. Yeah, I know, and I'm still lacking in it. Very heavily lacking. As an athlete with an interest in sports medicine, I've done research on physiology in the human body. Sleep is mega important. Well, I appreciate you giving extra weight on it, because even though I say I know I need it, I still haven't changed my habits in a long time. I will be cutting stream early tonight so I can get reasonable sleep, because tomorrow is orientation for the littles, and they have 2 separate orientations. They're set on different times, so we're going to be at the school twice as long, that we can't overlap, and Oz takes one kid and I take the other kid and cut the time in half. They're 2 separate times, so we're both going to be there for the whole duration of everything that we need to learn and meet the new teachers and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Wait, are you tweeting to say you and Oz? Oh, wait, trying to say? How did you get tweeting out of trying? Are you trying to say you and Oz aren't high school students? I mean, we both used to be relatively recently in the grand history of all humankind. I'm shocked. Netflix would hire them, though. Netflix would hire us. In fact, Netflix, we were... did I ever tell you that I have a there's a project that's... It's... I don't know what we're going to do with it right now. It's in retooling, but it was at one point going to be shopped with Netflix. I feel like they were going to say no, though, because there are a bunch of check marks we weren't checked. Whoa. Was that English? A bunch of check boxes we were not checking off to get our show taken up by Netflix. Essentially, and this is going to sound so derivative now because I 90% believe, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, so I'm just saying 90%. It would be 100% if I were conspiratorial, but 90% believe that somebody quite famous and large in the world of Netflix shows stole our idea, which our idea was highly publicized, award-winning, contest-winning online, and so you could find what we did and poach the bones of it and do it yourself and see if you could succeed. And if you were a small fry, you probably wouldn't beat us. But if you were a large fry with lots of money, you probably would, and we believe somebody did. The idea was that we are going to pitch to Netflix and other places. A world founded on Edgar Allan Poe's work. Not just one story, but all of his work, all together in one cohesive Poe universe, a la the way Dresden Files does with history and mythology and fairy stories and Greek stories, and everything supernatural exists in the same one world. That was Dresden Files, right? But we were doing it with one author. Everything Edgar Allan Poe all existed in one world, all contemporaneous. All of his stories were true and somehow existed together, and we were writing a drama in that world. Anyway, some of you already know about this rant because I've already ranted about this. Project Alice, hi and welcome. I like your name. Please say, I don't want to do that. I love you already. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know you yet. If we were good friends, I might consider it. But I am so tired, and we're doing a short stream tonight, and we're just vibing right now. I will not, but maybe next time you ask me, I will. Would you be willing to say Kippy in a high-pitched voice? I'll listen really, really hard, and maybe I can hear it through your microphone. Is there a plan for a game tonight? Probably not. I don't want to get caught up in anything, and I have things I want to say to you guys. And so I have a game booted up in the background. You might actually hear it, and you might actually know what that music is. However, if I start playing that, then I start getting distracted from the things that I want to say tonight, and then the stream doesn't move on quickly, and we don't get to the place where I get reasonable sleep for school orientation tomorrow. Does that make sense? Teresa actually sleeps in the guest room most nights to avoid getting woken up by me coming in later. What do you like? Kick the door open and launch yourself into bed and like bounce her off the bed as you like swan dive onto it? I'm just curious, like, what you do that would wake her up, or is it that she's a really, really light sleeper? I just feel like that's kind of I don't mean to be derogatory or anything, but it just reminds me of like the 1950s TV shows where they weren't allowed to show couples in a bed together because they thought, oh, that's so what's the word I'm looking for? Not sus. It's so, I can't think of the word. It's you know, you don't want to show married couples in a bed together. It might give kids the wrong idea that you're allowed to do that when you get married. So they put them in like separate beds for TV shows, kind of thing. Yeah. I know what that music is. I do too. I figured you would, Brielle. All right, Dame, I'm heading out because I have to pack for my birthday trip. When's your birthday? Let me know. You know what? Can you DM it to me? Because if you tell me in stream chat, it's going to disappear, and I don't have like my KB open or anything like that to put it in. But happy birthday ahead of time in case I don't see you. Because I feel like it's been, you know, a few minutes that you and I haven't really chatted. And so if I don't see you before your birthday, I hope it's a fantastic one. I feel like this year has been really great for you, so I'm super excited to see what next year has to offer for you. Headhunter, thank you so much for the follow, dude. Super appreciate you being here. Thank you. Birthday. Hello, friend. You're doing a great job. Oh, never mind. You're one of those. Yeah, I'm not doing what you said, but I appreciate that you. It looks like you typed. It looks like you typed your message. You actually literally don't look like a bot, even though you probably are. That's pretty fantastic. Just when I thought I was going to be talking to a real person tonight. Teresa's a light sleeper and has trouble getting back to sleep. Ugh, that sucks. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, and if people wake me up, which is potentially easy to do, there's some stimuli that get me to wake up immediately. However, I can force myself back to sleep really, really fast. And so if I close my eyes and pretend like it didn't wake me up and the stimulator stops trying to bother me, I will fall back asleep pretty quick. Kale, it's so good to see you. I appreciate that you're here. I know you're usually in Oz's streams, and I know she's not streaming tonight, so I appreciate that you popped in on this one. This one's not going to be a long stream, but we are sort of talking about like the future of Oz and the future of me. And I will be sharing with you guys what these next couple of weeks, what we're talking about and why both of us might be looking at significant shifts in how we stream going forward with the children's school year. Yeah, I haven't started talking about that stuff yet. Just I've been, you know, teasing it so far. They do the separate bed gag in WandaVision. Oh, okay. Oh, did Oz tell you we watched Avengers 2 tonight with the kiddos? So we all got to meet Wanda. They know who Wanda is. It's been a while since we chatted. Wrestling has been swamping me. Well, I love that for you, though, actually. It's been rough. I probably got enemies now, though. Oh. Interesting. A new arc in your life. I'm so curious to understand the enemy thing. If you've got enemies, that must make you a hero. That's not necessarily true. Children always causing chaos. Well, they learn from the best. We've told them that there's an immortal named Kale. And if they want to do equally amazing galaxy-changing things, then they need to learn how to embrace the chaos. We're training them to become your, successors? Well, I guess if you're infinite, you just have to find like corners of the universe to give them to practice on themselves. We want them to be, you know, world eaters as well at some point in their future. It's the one conceit we have as parents. You know, we let them mostly be themselves and we try not to imprint on them or live our lives vicariously through them. But the one thing that would make me a really proud papa is just to see them devour galaxies. That's all. Stuff like that. So the school year starts on Monday. We do have orientation tomorrow. It's 2 hours for one. And then a big long break. I figure we'll get some lunch out or something nice, you know, make a family date out of it. And then we'll go back and we'll do the other one's orientation later on in the day. It's 2 hours because I think it's like an hour and a half of like actual content. Like here's the curriculum, here's our goals, here's our contract with you, the parents, and here's what we ask you, the parents, to do. Something like that. And then there's like an extra half hour at the end of each one of the kids where they're doing this weird, it's a very, very light Hogwarts. Hogwarts light. Super light. So light you could consider it a cheap knockoff. Like when you buy a expensive looking luxury bag off the streets of Mumbai and it says Dolce and Cabano, and you're like, yeah, that's a legit bag, but you paid $25 for it, and it's definitely not. That's what this kind of is. There's 7 schools instead of 4. 7 different schools, and or houses, I guess, is what they're actually they're calling them houses. And each of the classrooms is assigned a house. But the houses are like ideologies about how to raise elementary school students to do better. One is about focus. One is about connections, like interpersonal connections. One is about empathy. And here's the thing. To get to 7, I don't know why they wanted 7 of them. There's some overlap. There's one about like connections, but there's one about like collaboration. And I'm like, what's the difference? Is one just like knowing people, but then the other one is like working with them? That doesn't feel like a strong enough. It shouldn't have been 7. I wish they had, I don't know. I think of systems at such, and not only do I think of systems in such a better way, I think, than what I see out there in the world, but I also don't stop in my brain because I am a little bit conceited in where I think I do most things better than most other people when it comes to planning. But then on top of that, I also think that I'm not enough and that I need other people. And that's the part where I think is way different. Some other folks I've met do disprove me when I'm like, I think I have a better idea. And then I hear their ideas and I'm like, oh shit, no, that guy's idea is better. So while I do feel like I have better ideas than the majority of people, I will concede that there are some folks that when you hear their creative ideas for like schoolhouses, for elementary, whatever, that some people could do it way better than me. But they're in the minority from what, just demographically, from what I understand. Where I think I succeed better than the vast majority of people is I always pitch my ideas across other brains. I don't think my brain is good enough to handle all this kind of stuff alone. And I don't think most other people's are either. In collaboration, you're always doing more work than the number of people assigned to a task, as long as everybody's working. Group project in college, 2 out of 6 people are actually doing the work. The other 4 are fucking off hoping for a good grade. That's not what I'm talking about. But imagine a group of people, 6 people who are all active, invested, passionate about what they're doing. They do care. This is a life focus of theirs. 6 people will do more than 6 people's worth of work. Usually something like 9 people's worth of work coming out of 6, thanks to the collaboration. And not least of which because all of us have holes and deficits and places where we don't quite do our best. And if you don't test that against other people and use their strengths where you are weak, you will always do worse. The outcome will always 100% be worse than if you had collaborated or at least gotten feedback from other people. So I wish they had done that with the 7 houses idea, because I think it's half-baked at best. At least involved me in it. It's a kid! Hi, welcome. He said, well, I'll read that in a sec. Let me catch up with the rest of chat and I'm going to read that out loud. You made me laugh. Coach sat everyone down recently to talk about a culture change among the program. Interesting. I'm intrigued. He was yelling because of people not working hard. He told us to stand up if we've been to every practice, gotten extra tough, etc. He started saying things only I did and said, I'd put my stock in Weeha, obviously, you know. Yeah, because he's out working all of you. True. I mean, basically, based on what I know about you, and I personally strive to be the you in content creation. I do. I want Weeha's resolve and absolute devotion, absolute passion toward one thing. But for content creation and trying to excel, at least at bare minimum, to cover the needs of this household. If I had 10% of Weeha's ambition, I would make this happen for this household. Absolutely. And I fully believe that there's not a single person in that whole room that was doing nearly as much work as you. No one. Not a single one. So people are probably mad at me. I believe that because now they're all being held to not your standard, but to strive at your level of strive. Like they don't have to reach your capacity, but they have to at least start trying and looking like your amount of try. So yeah, that could be frustrating for some people that just want to glide through and not work hard and not give it their all. Whatever, they can't beat me anyway. Yeah, what are they gonna do? Even if they are, if you do make enemies, you will be able to defeat them. That's not an issue. Feel dumb it took this long, but bought a poster of black cardstock for a backdrop. Oh, for photos. Yeah. For your social media. Gonna make my photos of my prints look so much better. Honestly, like, do you post any of this kind of stuff online? Could you do like a TikTok, what's the word I'm looking for? Like time lapse of the printing, the painting, the whole shebang. Do you know, her name is, shit, give me 2 seconds. She does 3D modeling and crafting and stuff, but a lot of it's more like practical and hand done kind of stuff. But it ends up looking fantastic. And she does a lot of like creepier stuff. She does some game-based stuff and other IPs, which I think you would appreciate if you don't already know her. Oh, damn. Long time Miss Size Doesn't Matter. The clown posted anything. What the hell is her name? Her name is Ashley Vortman, Voortman. And I feel like if you looked at one of her videos making a long form project, you would see what is meta these days, because she is meta as fuck. And yeah. If you did half of that, you would probably go viral, I feel. Snickers and 10-year-old humor. He said we all have holes. And I meant it. I mean it. In fact, I don't know any of you who isn't holy. In a sacrilegious sort of way. All right, for real, gonna get now. Adios. Weeha, I appreciate your face. Thanks for the compliment. Oh, yeah. You can be the me. I'm not that special. Well, I'm not gonna be the you in wrestling. Not now. Not in 10 years. That's not gonna happen. Just by so many reasons. I'm not gonna do that. But I want to be the you of content creation. I want to win at content creation by having persistence and passion and focus like you do in your craft, as opposed to viral or knowing the right people or paying a bunch of money for advertisements or whatever it happens to be. I want to do it by being a force that just cannot be stopped, like I see in you. Which also means I need to manifest a lot more energy than I have been in that direction. And that's going to involve some major changes, potentially quitting a day job. But I'm not sure I can do that immediately, just because littles who require food and clothes and school supplies. But we'll see what we can do. Post my stuff here or your Discord. I appreciate you posting my Discord. And I'm glad that you're posting on Instagram. That's a good start. Goated shit, he ain't lying. Hell yeah. I've been thinking of making shorts of my prints and my painting methods, but I'm usually too lazy, but the thought came across my head because of how fast I painted. If you started just doing time-lapse video of your work, I would happily edit that shit and get it up online for you, or give it back to you so you could get it up online. But I know about like posting schedules and shit like that. The thing is that I fully believe that a rising tide raises all boats, right? And I don't mean in the Reaganomics sort of way, because obviously that didn't work, because they did not raise the tide. They found a way to localize water rising in just a few boats and left the rest of the boats high and dry in empty docks, just sitting on dirt. So not the Reaganomics rising tide shit. Fuck that. But for those of you that are near and dear to me and are looking to break through in content creation, if I get one of you to succeed and I can ride your coattails, we'll play that game. I'll make that happen. Yeah. Hamza him, holy, holy, holy. Nice. Religious trauma can be funny. I have had some. And yeah, religiosity is a weird hell of a drug for a lot of people. And I find it extremely fascinating. And I've had so many crazy, weird experiences. Hello, Crims. In the face of, in the greater category of spirituality and organized religion. I could have a whole street, and I mean, obviously we have, where anybody brings up religion on a deeper level with me, that becomes an immediate trigger, and that's suddenly like the thing we talk about for a long span of time. But I am dedicated tonight to tell you the sort of greater plan that Oz and I are talking about, so that you're all on the same wavelength with us and what to expect going forward, even though we don't know right now because some things are hanging in the air right this moment. It's a lot of work to set stuff up, to film handmade stuff. I know. However, if you have permanent solutions done, and I know you could get a couple like good frames or what's the word? Not frame, but like you know, like phone holders. Obviously, I don't do this kind of shit myself, but like things to put your phones into, not like a gimbal, like a handheld thing, but like ways to like plug in your phone or some other camera and angle and hoist them in some ways so that there's always like 3 camera angles on everything that you're doing, whether that's at the printer, at your painting station, or whatever, so that you can change camera angles to keep the visual interest there. And you have multiple cameras all recording, and then you just upload a bunch of that shit to the cloud, and then you have some editor come in and put it all together so it's snappy and has nice music and, you know, all visually and aesthetic. Yeah, do that shit. And then I believe you could blow up, I think. But it's like, it's work, but it's work just in the front end, setting it up. And then once it's set up, every time you sit down to work, it's just like, just press record on a few devices and then upload that shit later. The payoff would, I think, would be so worth it for you, I think. Yeah. Greetings. Anything worth doing takes effort. To some degree. I mean, there's some things that's like, there's effort and effort. Effort will always be a component of anything that's good, even anything that's fun. But some effort doesn't bother you. All of us have something that you could spend an inordinate amount of energy or thought or planning of. You could be lying in bed, you finally turned your phone off, all the lights are out, and everything is peaceful in your house, and you're about to pass out. But for 15 minutes, your brain is fascinated with the idea of fill in the blank, right? Something for you that's different for everybody else. And even though you are putting forth effort right there in bed, half asleep, and you want to pick up your phone and maybe take a note of what you just thought of, because tomorrow you won't remember it unless you put it down on your phone or something like that. That kind of stuff doesn't feel like effort. It almost feels like it's just bubbling out of you, right? We all have something like that. As long as you're healthy. If you're in a bad mental space, you're just trying to like survive, don't worry if what I'm saying, you're like, that never happens to me. You know, you've got other bigger fish to fry. But when you're stable, that kind of stuff happens to a lot of us. And I don't know, I'd be hesitant to use the word effort, because at that point, it's almost like just the love of that topic or that thing or that dream. It compels you. It compels you to think about it, to plan, to do a little bit of extra work toward it, to say, oh yeah, just 5 more minutes and then we can all, you know, have dinner. I just want to finish this one last thing, because you're just so in love with that thing. And as long as you're in love, it doesn't feel like effort. Same thing with being with the right person, right? The right person, even when times are tough, you will want to talk and stand up and fix it and have those deep, hard conversations sometimes. And it will feel hard and tricky and emotionally exhausting, but it won't feel like an effort, because you want it to work, because that person means so much to you. I could just print a phone holder. There you go. Create the materials that you need to be big on social media. 100%. Also, I like not haggling to get dressed while I paint. Having. God, what is... Your autocorrect does so many weird things. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. The cameras don't have to be on you in any way. The that content creator I cited before, while she does very, very little on camera, Ashley Vortman, she is not an on-camera person. So the vast majority of what you see her do as far as crafting is the stuff she's working on, and maybe her hands in frame. which if you don't want to show your hands in frame, we got another issue to kind of tackle. But yeah, you don't have to get dressed for that kind of shit. Swipe function? Oh, your swipe's just bad. You can change. You can alter some sliders on the settings of your keyboard that might help with that kind of stuff. I don't know. My current swipe setup is really bad too, so I'm the pot calling the kettle black. I hit backspace so much just trying to use my phone if I don't dictate. And I like to dictate, but I have loud, talkative people that hang out with me a lot, namely my kids. My phone's smallish and I got big man hands. Dictate. Dictate. Yeah, definitely dictate. I had got my stream started without taking a bio break, so I'm gonna go take one right now. I'll be back, and then we'll talk about the whole what the next couple weeks means as far as what we're doing with our schedule, ideas that we are spitballing. So stay tuned. Bye. It takes a while for the dildo to to rise. Not sure I'll mess with it, but it sounds delicious. Yeah, we're looking up dildo recipes, apparently. Womp womp.
I wonder if somebody clips what is going on. Will my voice stay deep? Or will everything like unphase itself?
Makes one deep for you.
See, but you have to hit a button to do that. I've got perma deep.
Oh,
that's what she said.
Yeah. Are you guys joining on me or what?
Tetras? Tetras are your favorite type of fish? Oh, that's cute. I like tetras. Jam says, happy Enshrouded Tuesday. Is today Tuesday for you? Wait. Where are we at on the date line? It can only be Wednesday or Thursday for you, can't it? 给你们1分钟，好吧？所以我觉得，所以那些地方有多多的亭子地方有门可以开。如果你开门，然后门后面有一个厅房间或者一个人道，我真的先不喜欢了。第一的人我真的不喜欢。然后他们在这个新的办法做通秘密的地方，你开一扇门，然后你再多一个地方你可以找，真的不喜欢，太无聊了。但是 really don't matter. Hey! Thanks for the cheer. That's my tiny that you heard in the sound alert, by the way. Hopefully the sound alerts are going off. All right. If you heard a sound play, that's my tiny saying wow.
Really?
Yeah. I have both the
so
tiny.
Sad I missed it.
Oh, seriously? Thank you.
I have you muted.
Thank you for the. I'm not sure how we go about.
Jimmy, look what I found.
Jeez, what? It's a Doge.
I'm gonna drop him off the side of the boat.
All right. Such is the fate of all Doge.
Not even a satisfying splash?
Lame.
Boo.
Well, do we want to try locating some of these shrines and treasuries and see if
he's peeing on the boat?
Lovely.
Whoops.
Mars. Did you
Hey,
not
don't blame
did you not train your dog?
my.
Cool.
All right.
What are you wearing?
I don't know. I just picked whatever.
That
you
was kind of
don't
an
you don't
intimate
actually
question to
unlock
ask.
anything fun for a long time. What was that, Oz?
That was kind of an intimate question to ask. What are you wearing?
What are you wearing?
Yeah, if you were just using this as ASMR, this just got weird.
Yeah. Like with my dogs, I address them the exact same way I addressed any other thing that I'm talking to. The lamp, the person standing next to the lamp, the person who the lamp was made out of.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
Disregard that for legal reasons.
Or we had at my high school we had a lot of both IB AP classes, and kids were like pushed into those classes. So like whether they were really good at school or not, their parents made them. And for the kids that weren't that great, you know, they had to sit with private tutors to sort of like push them into those spots. And there was just like a lot of pressuring. I don't even know what that last clip was about. I was there. I was listening to me talk as I put my headphones on, got myself settled in. I was like, where was I going with all of that? Yes, I had AP and IB classes at my high school, and I was in a lot of them. And yes, kids were pressured to be in them. Where was I going with that? Anyway. Time for me to lurk? How dare you? No, I appreciate your face, Stuart. Thanks for being here. The historical answer to what are you guys doing has been that I am working so that we can get to a place where Oz fulfills her dream and I fulfill mine, but sort of like in that order. And the order has historically been Oz studied very hard to become a mortician and has the school credentials to pursue that endeavor. And then I've had an interest that has come and gone and then come back and stayed to be a content creator and entertainer. And in order to do...
You are my dad. You're my dad. Wookie, wookie, wookie.
Welcome, the Streamer of Oz. I have a better idea for what to do this weekend than the Bat House. What could it possibly be? Please, don't leave everybody hanging while I subtly shout you out on my channel for everybody to see. Please go follow them on
Give me
Twitch
a sign.
and YouTube.
Spook me, baby, one more time.
My loneliness is
It's
killing
alright,
me.
Kale.
And I must confess,
I still believe,
when I am with you, I lose my mind.
Give me a sign.
Hit me,
Shake me,
now.
baby, one more time. I'm not sorry, Mom.
The joys of singing on Discord, trying to manage the lag from each other's voices. Because if you try to sing on top of somebody and you're like, okay, we're timed correctly, you've got it wrong. Because there's always a little bit of lag. So you really have to work it out so that you preempt their singing by just a little bit, but you don't know exactly how much will work. So it's just a big guessing game. Yeah. Cat door installation? Oh, good point. Let's do cat door before bats, because clearly without the bat house, the bats have persisted, right? But without the cat door, the cat's quality of life is not so good. And as the heat continues, it's not that bad. Cats have ways of regulating their own heat. But when it gets cold, we're going to have wanted that door to be properly set up so they can get in and out, so they can enjoy their outside time, but stay toasty when they want to. And we can keep the litter box on the patio where the awful smells and mess stay in a place that's manageable. I think it's going to be a great idea. That's probably the best use of our time. I agree. I've installed a few cat doors, pretty quick and easy. Okay, we're going to be video calling you this weekend and using you as a consultant, because there's only so much you can get from a YouTube video. But we're going to have you look over our shoulders, and you're going to tell us exactly how to do this. I've decided. They're getting matted. I need to brush them with the shutter. Oh, yeah. Good idea. We have to install it. True. Yeah, 15... whatever Oz just said. I don't know what that all means, but Oz probably looked it up and has a higher level of knowledge about what kind of door we're using than I do. But what she said, that's... I vouch for it. Yeah. Guest plans have been made for me. That's right. You know what you're doing this weekend, too. Making sure our kitties can get in and out of the house so they can socialize with us when they want to do that. And they can have a little smell on the outside time. Maybe catch a bug or a skink. There are skinks that end up on our back porch but have never gotten in the house. And sometimes the cats like to catch them and take, I don't know, probably 2 slow chomps and then leave them alone, because they don't actually like eating lizards, but they like to pretend that they did. The work may disagree. We will pay you your wages for missing work. Just kidding. I cannot confirm or deny that. Oz, do we have that kind of... Oh, Oz informs me we do not have that kind of money on hand. So my promise to you was a lie. An open, bold-faced lie. Bald, too. Bald-faced. It was like I shaved my beard before I said it. A bald-faced lie. Which one is right? Why don't I know this one? Bold-faced or bald-faced lie? Bald. It's bald. Interesting. Bald-faced is the term found in published edited texts. Gotcha. In addition to barefaced, you could also say barefaced, which further encourages that it is bald. Barefaced is much more British, which makes me think that's actually the more proper English, since English came from England and not from America. Yeah, so then the next question is, why do... Oh, because it's just open and undisguised. You would be barefaced as opposed to wearing some sort of disguising thing, which, why would a disguise make your lie more believable? I think if somebody came up to me and they were wearing like those ski masks with the cutout eye and mouth holes, and then they say, I have something very truthful to tell you, I wouldn't believe them, because they're wearing that ski mask, right? This is their believability tanks at that point. Yeah. I work for favors, so it's fine. Oh, I guess you'll have to let us know what kind of favors you need to have happen. You mean a balaclava? Do I? What's a balaclava? I'm learning so many things tonight. I love it. Yes. So when I look up the Wikipedia page, I'm just, I'm quoting Wikipedia, which I know is a faux pas right out the gate. Ski mask redirects here is the very first thing I see that's not Wikipedia standard English. And then just below that, I see a balaclava, comma, the appositive then continues, also, or begins, also called a ski mask, comma, is a form of cloth headgear designed to expose only part of the face, usually the eyes and mouth. So when you change my words to mean balaclava, you're just changing it to a different term meaning the same thing, although it does make you sound smart. And so I will probably use that word going forward because I also like to sound smart. Back to Oz and mortuary science. We both have had an interest in getting her in the end of life services industry, helping people grieve and figure out the logistics of what to do when someone passes. Oh, my understanding was that was a more original, more correct word. Well, let's find out where balaclava comes from. We'll come back. We'll come back to Oz and end of life once we understand the etymology behind this term. Similar styles of headgear, historically, were known in the 19th century as the Utlan cap worn by the Polish and Prussian soldiers, the Templar cap worn by outdoor sports enthusiasts. But the name, the balaclava name, that is to say, comes from their use at the 1854 Battle of Balaclava during the Crimean War, referring to the town of Balaclava near Sevastopol in Crimea, which, since the Ukraine-Russia conflict, I'm sure many of you are more familiar with that part of the world than you used to be by Instagram stream. I didn't expect you to last more than an hour anyway. Oh well. British troops apparently came to Crimea to do their fighting, and they wore knitted headgear to keep warm. So it was an English contrivance being worn in an area of what is now Ukraine. I don't know if it was Ukraine in 1854, to be perfectly honest. Handmade balaclavas were sent over to the British troops to help protect them from the bitter cold weather. Gotcha. So in other words, their folks at home were like, you could do all the fight all you want, do some fight, but here, have a warm face while you do the fight. Your grandma says they don't want to see you come home with frostbitten noses. The troops required this aid because their own supplies never arrived or didn't arrive in time. So that's pretty weird to think that their folks at home knitted a bunch of this type of headgear for them, and it somehow arrived to them sooner than their own GI gear. Crazy, right? According to Richard Rutt in his History of Hand Knitting, which I didn't know was a book, but go Richard Rutt. You tell us about knitting throughout history. The name balaclava helmet was not used during the war, but it does appear much later, like 1881, which would be something just shy of 30 years after the battle. I don't know the Battle of Balaclava, and I'm not going to go into that on this stream. It's a Rush. Hello, Rushtill. I don't have snacks for you, but hopefully somebody in the chat does. And no, we're not going to just limit Rush to just being a snack god, because I promised you I would expand who you are in my chat as something far greater than that. Rush, how have you been? How are things? Can we pick your brain in the near future as to what we should do as far as the future of our streaming? I do value your opinion. I would like to know what you would have to say, because you've mattered so much to our community so far. Damien definitely needs to be overseen. I mean, I do have a snack goblin and a snack god frequently watching over me. So, yeah. Gonna sit on his head now? I don't think that's what Crims meant. Also, I charge for that service. Also, Mr. Damien, me has quick question. Boy, do I have answers for you. Also have a question for you, but I did already ask a person who speaks Spanish better than I do, and they gave me an answer. But I'm curious to your answer on this as well. Would it be okay to plug / ask who would be interested in some drawn weapon commissions from a friend of mine? Certainly. I don't know. I have so many creative people in my chat that I am hesitant to say that there will be a lot of encouraged audience in my stream that wouldn't just do it themselves. But I'm always willing to have folks share out a fellow creative and have us take a look at their work, because you never know who they're going to meet or what kind of advice they're going to get from the sharing. And so I think it's important that we keep that culture alive. Definitely. Have you won Just Chatting yet, Kale? I feel like I'm already, we are currently winning at Just Chatting. I don't know how you feel about it. You took a look at my demographics over the year in 2025 versus where it's been previous years. Shit. I'd say I'm winning. Winning more and more with each passing year. Can we call him the Rushyverse? Is this because you've watched too many Marvel movies recently, Oz? I don't know. Why do we want to call him that? They're everywhere, existing in all versions of the world, goodest being in all of them. Rush does have sort of an avatar on everybody's stream that I know. So that's kind of weird, right? He is sort of like in multiple universes. Nice. But what about Kippy? I asked you to say that very high-pitched, and I will see if I can hear you say it. I'm not saying it on my stream tonight because I'm just not that person. Not tonight anyway. But I'm curious if you're that person tonight. Project Alice. Can you be? Could you? Would you do it for me? I've been listening really, really intently. I can't hear you though. Maybe you have to turn up your mic. Also, was your question? Oh, right. My question. Sorry, I was trolling somebody. So, question is, have you ever heard the phrase, it's been trending in my algorithm, and it's a little bit misanthropic, but I wanted to share it with you anyways, just to see if you've heard it, if it's part of your algorithm or zeitgeist or whatever, because it's definitely for Spanish speakers. So for those of you that don't have like Spanish speaking content hitting your algorithm, it's kind of more for Rushdell and other folks I know that speak Spanish. But the phrase is, el hombre no es gente ni familia de uno, which seems kind of dark. I know it's kind of like, it sounds like it's about one person, but I think in context from where I've heard it, it sort of means all men. Todos los hombres. And it feels just kind of like this idea like one sex on this planet, because of their testosterone, machismo, designs for power, or the patriarchy or whatever, that they're meant to be seen as second class. I understand the problems with toxic masculinity, but it just seems like this writes them off entirely. I'm just curious if you've heard the phrase and what your thoughts are. Also, apparently I lost my stream streak again. Oz, I hate stream streaks. I'm not gonna lie. I hate that everybody sees them, that Twitch very much encourages people to pay attention to that metric, and they keep letting everybody down because it resets and bugs and acts unfair, and some people are able to maintain dozens and dozens of stream streak with no issue, and other people get regularly reset and everything in between. And they aren't open enough about calling it a beta feature. Troa opened a ticket about it to let them know what was going on with him. And that was the first I ever heard of the Stream Streak feature being called a beta feature, because they replied back to him, "Thank you for your report on the Stream Streak beta feature. We'll take your information into account for the future design and implementation of what we're trying to do here." And it's just like, nobody knew it was a beta, like a live, non-opt-in, mandatory beta test sort of thing, unless you stop and complain, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we hear your complaint, but we're going to call it a bug report on a beta piece of software," instead of like, we broke something. We didn't break anything. It's not official. Can't break it if it's not official. I don't know. It's so rude. I'm too inconsistent to have any kind of streak. That's okay. It's broken anyway. Broken anyways. Did you see this story about tea? Like the drink? I don't think so, Jam. Also, hi. El hombre no es gente ni familia de uno. Methinks has heard it before. Hold on. Okay. I'll let you do some research on that. Rush will come back to us on that one. Oz has been interested in mortuary science for a long time, and if you've caught any of her streams, some of them, she has taken the time to explain the motivations and the impetus behind all of that. She's accredited in schooling for it and has shown interest in trying to become a funeral director, which is an incredibly important role for literally every human being on this planet. Like, you cannot live through this life without somebody dying, unless you just hermit up and decide you don't want to know anybody. And so funerals are an important aspect of that, and Oz wants to be a part of that. And I think she has the heart and the fortitude and the capacity to adapt to the needs of different families and beliefs, and support them the way, meet them where they have the need, so that the families can process the event with the most grace and honor possible. And so I feel very strongly about that. And as long as she feels strongly about it and is not dissuaded by the barriers along the way to get into the industry, then we want to make that happen. So soon, as time permits and busyness permits with a local mortuary that she's gotten in touch with, they will be discussing with her some of the, local mortuary will be discussing with her some of the criteria required in the state of Georgia to enter end-of-life services, what the different job titles require as far as clinical hours, I will say, apprenticeship hours, whatever term you want to use that helps you get the idea of, you won't be full-fledged, licensed, completely credentialed person until you meet certain functionalities. And it's kind of unfortunate because when she was taking these classes in California, they said, California is so stringent on a lot of these rules and regulations that if you can pass your schooling in California, which is trickier than a lot of other places, you will have credentials that sort of will work for almost anywhere else you want to go without having, you'll be overqualified, over-credentialed. And in Georgia, that may not be the case. There may be situations involving extra apprenticeship hours, if you will. But we want her to have time to talk to somebody without the kids and everything, so that we are more clear on the requirements in the state, because the online information's kind of garbo, so we just need some more clarity there. That will help us decide how much percentage of her spoons get put into the pursuit of this career path versus the earring and jewelry crafting versus the content creator side of her. Like all these other aspects that all make up Oz and the totality of who she is have to be percentaged out because she only has so many hours that she can be conscious and have spoons and engage in these various activities. And to get that ratio right, we need to understand everything about everything to have a holistic picture. And that conversation with this mortuary will be a significant chunk of that discovery to help her define the ratios perfectly. And that will help us understand where we want to go forward from there. What I want to do after her needs are met, and only after, to fill in whatever gaps or assist or be what I need to be so that she's got her dreams set. There's a lot to consider, and a lot of it's contingent on this conversation with this one mortuary. Yeah, it has gotten popular due to some celeb drama happening. Oh, that sounds sketch. So somebody famous made this line famous, either in the saying of that line or as the target of that line, I imagine. Yeah. Remember a few months ago you were talking about dating and you wanted an app that basically reported on all people's backgrounds? Not just dating. Yes, that's great for dating because red flags, and we would all love to know if somebody's like an absolute creep. Imagine, especially just for the women folk, but this is not exclusive to gender or sex. The idea that if somebody were truly toxic, possibly, and tossing out red flags, but also possibly dangerous, risky to date, risks your personal health, your sexual autonomy because of the sort of person they are. Wouldn't you want to know what other people have experienced in an anonymous, aggregate, and well-filtered scoring of sorts? And by well-filtered, I mean, let's say we're just gonna stick with the guy being toxic, but this is just for just for the expression of it. It doesn't have to be strictly guys. But let's just, I'm just gonna pick cishet because easy to vocalize real fast. The guy in question really shirks some lovely lady who happens to be a major content creator. She makes a video or does a live stream and says, chat, I need you all to find this guy. His name is John Doe. Here's where he lives. Here's where he works. And I want you all, and then this app exists that D purported. D got a team together and he made this app. So the Damien Hall made social score app. This probably have a better name than that. I don't know what I would call it because this is, for all the things that I say on stream that I'm really passionate about, this is one of those things I am passionate about. It's actually not physically on my roadmap or digitally on my roadmap of things I want to accomplish before I die. It's just an interesting thought, but I do see a lot of negative things about this too. So I'm skeptical to go all in on it. You know what I mean? But the Damien Holme social score app, like she goes on it and she says, chat, I need all of you. Here's his URL for his profile. Here's how you find him. Anybody who's locative to him, or if you can VPN to his area or whatever, just go. I need you all to dump immediate negative scores on him, like right now, because he was such a scumbag. The social score app needs to know these things because that's critical, right? That is a critical bit of important. Oh God, that filter is so gross. Oh, this water tastes like tap right now. I need to change that filter. Ugh, that's filtered water right out of a charcoal, pure whatever filter, and it tastes like I'm drinking pool water. Anyway, Yeah, it needs to be tested so that imagine you get a negative score and it's about dating and it's about like how handsy you were or how you didn't hear no fast enough and so you kind of insisted yourself. And like that same type of report came in 2,000 times over, 50,000 times over. And it all happened in the span of like an hour. And the app checked your location and determined that you were at home watching Netflix. Should any of those reports go to your score, that seems awfully highly sketch. It seems like a weaponized attack, right? It really does. And unfortunately, that does mean that if a group got together on a Discord server and all talked about their bad experience about somebody, and they all agreed, wow, we should get together and put our negative scores out for this guy. And they were legit scores, but you like organized your group to all do it at the same time and they were all legit, but you all waited until one night to do it all together. That should still flag. It really should. Now, maybe those flags would then have an extra flag on top of that. One, they're flagged for all being around the same time on a given night when that guy wasn't even out dating. And so it seems sketch. So maybe those social scores from those people get eliminated. But maybe there's also another filter on top of the one that I just mentioned, where it's like, well, did that guy actually go out on dates with that person in question? It might check location history, notice that the two of you did in fact go out on previous dates, and it was more than a one-time thing. Your numbers are saved on each other's contacts. There's a history of DMs between you two, or even pictures passed back and forth, that kind of stuff. Or you both swiped on Tinder. All that kind of information, if you could, in a dream world, where you could glean all that sort of information and put it together, that might flip the score to being positive. So that person's negative score of you was actually accepted onto their profile. Whereas a whole bunch of strangers, it's obvious they didn't date that person, even if they VPN'd in close. First of all, VPNs do have exit IPs. I don't know that a lot of people know this when they consider the idea of, I'll just use a VPN and it'll be fine. Nobody will know that I'm not in Slovakia doing this thing. You're in a Slovakian IP, but an IP that's regularly known to be used by NordVPN. So nobody really believes that you're a person in Slovakia. You were part of an exit node for a very popular VPN service. And they'll notice that. And some services will still be down for you because they'll be like, we see where you're from right now and that's fine, but you're from this one IP and we don't trust you. I don't know if you this might be elementary for half of you. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like there are ways to make the social score thing work with enough data involved. But you do have to be invasive of people's personal data across multiple platforms, maybe where they opt in a lot of ways and say, yes, you can access my other apps' histories and data, or I will request downloads. You know, there's some apps where you can, like TikTok, you can say, I request a report of my personal statistics. And then you do so, and then you upload them to the social score app, and you get a boost for that because you're helping them with vulnerability and gathering of data, and maybe it makes your score go up because you're complicit in that, something like that. I could see it working, and I could see it being also very evil at the same time. So don't think that I'm sold on my own ideas here. And some idea, I mean, I first heard this idea through Black Mirror, through a very popular episode where it was a very bad idea in that episode. And I still was excited to maybe one day live to see that app exist. I am. Yeah. Anyway, let me continue on with that because I know you were like on a thread about this. You wanted an app that reported on all the people's background, so people could know who they were dating. Someone wrote that app? Wait, what? It was for women only and it was called T. Right, like spell the T? Interesting. Hi, Project Alice again. Using AI? Oh, like for the app? Yeah, I would probably you'd probably have to use AI to get all that information squished together. T is a phone app that lets women report men they date and keep profiles on them and do lookups on them. I like that. As long as it's doing the filtering I'm talking about, i.e., you are an influencer and therefore a bunch of other people who know you and don't actually know the guy, who don't have like location data or history data that proves that they dated this guy, their reports on him should be nullified. You can't crowd dox, or not crowd dox, but like crowd downvote somebody. That should be banned. That should be prohibited. It should be easily discoverable with enough, well-made filtration systems so that that doesn't happen. That and it's the other idea I had, just thinking about this real quick. Oh, if somebody regularly reports like literally everybody they date, so you see their history as like dating men over and over and over and over again, and they negative, but other women date that man and they vote positive. If you are frequently bucking the trend, i.e., you've dated, 100 men in the course of a year. That's pretty high frequency, but, just trying to keep round numbers. And out of 100 men, 50 of those men, you are voting opposite of what everybody else votes or overwhelmingly voted. These men are like 80% or higher thumbs up, and you vote them a thumbs down if it's just thumbs up and thumbs down. You should have maybe not a ban or a suspension, that might be too high, but maybe you should have a weight, a social weighting on your score so that your thumbs up is not one user's thumbs up, it is half a user's thumbs up. If you persist, a quarter of a user's thumbs up. And so do your votes still change the rating on the person? Yeah, but the app is going to detooth you. It's going to deprivilege you because you're showing trends that don't align with the majority of users, the majority of women that are trying to use this app. They're not going to have the same experiences as you. By historical data, you seem like a troll, or you seem like the problem is more often you. And so you should be punished in your metrics for that. Then I could see it working, because then you're keeping things honest. If there's no filtration, then the data cannot be honest. It can be too heavily exploited. I don't know why I keep drinking this water, except that I'm thirsty. We have a new filter too. I just really need to take that old one out. I really do. So they keep profiles on them. That's interesting. I wonder what kind of information you can save about a man on T. Makes me curious. Do lookups on them. Gotcha. Interesting. Answering the question you have, it has gotten popular. We're now back to the quote that I asked Rush about, which for those of you that forgot or that don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry I didn't translate it for everybody else. El hombre no es gente ni familia de uno is basically like man in general, really is the quote for this. Man in general is not people or a person per se, nor is he somebody's family. Just men, because the idea is that men perpetrate violence. They treat family sometimes disingenuously, poorly, like less than citizens. They get spurned in love, and they act like that person isn't even a person. They turn on the people that trust them to do the right thing too often. And when a woman turns on you, she has certain capabilities to do real harm to you in your life. But when a man does it, he has even more just partly by nature of testosterone and the difference with the ability to cause violence and that sort of thing. And I think that's what sort of where the quote comes from. Man is neither person or people or general population, nor is he family to anyone. Yeah. Okay, so answering that question you have, it has gotten popular due to some Spanish language drama. Interesting, okay. But also goes deep to the full view of the man in the context of society, relationships, and sexual life. Right. So this idea that, man has certain power, sometimes just physical prowess over his partner, that he is, on occasion, not afraid to abuse and use in very incorrect, sometimes illegal, sometimes sadly should be illegal but does not have the protection of the law ways. Yeah. That's why you rent a server, not a VPN. Oh, I'm listening, Jam. I have something I've wanted to do for a very long ass time, and you might be helping me discover a way to do that. Black Mirror was just copying what the Chinese were doing. So I'm on Xiaohongshu. I don't know if you've been on that app before. It's called Red Note in America. But a number of people were asked by TikTok refugees when TikTok did the administration shut us down, but Trump will save us. And then the next day, Trump has saved us, blah, 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 blah. And then everybody was like, ew, I hate the idea that you're talking about Trump the way you are. And they exodused from TikTok. Also, some people exodus just because they thought that app was going to be shut down permanently. Obviously, it hasn't happened, but they feared it would. And so a lot of those people came over to Xiaohongshu. I'm one of them, but I came over because I speak Chinese, so why shouldn't I also be on this app? I'm also still on TikTok as well. But so I saw a lot of TikTok refugees come onto Xiaohongshu and ask, what is the thing with the Chinese social score? You know, is this an app that looks like the Black Mirror episode what is it called? Not Landslide. Nosedive. And starring what's her name? Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard. Bryce Dallas, right? I'm just confusing her name. I don't know actors' names that well. Anyway, turns out the Chinese system is far less pervasive and invasive than that by a long shot. It really is, for almost all intents and purposes, a credit score. They call it a social credit score, but it is far less what we have been taught. And mind you, I'm only hearing this from users from that app, so maybe it's different, but my guess is out of some like randos on that app that are probably not paid to sway Americans to think something different than what's actually happened in China, because I don't think it's worth the time and money to manipulate Americans from who use that site to think differently of China. That would be a crazy psyop where I don't see the motivation. The more likely situation is America tends to go too far in reporting on China because it makes America look good and China look weird. And as long as that happens, it can be a news story and it's clickable, it's clickbaitable, and American media is generally pretty garbo anyways. So why not try it? But in comparing the differences between what an Equifax score or other credit scores are versus what a Chinese quote-unquote social score are, they're by and large pretty similar. The Chinese score might open up a couple different other things that you can do that otherwise you couldn't do in the US. But I think travel is one of those where it's like there might be less regulations for somebody with a higher score. And if we thought of the US in terms of how well can you travel based on your credit score, it might feel kind of weird to us. So it's just like, it's minor nuances, but it's not not nearly the type of thing like your barista gave you really good service, so you give them a higher score and suddenly they were able to buy a house in a different neighborhood sort of shit. It's not that high level. It's much more like a credit score, if not exactly like it. Yeah. Okay, now here's the story on T. T requires women only, so how do you verify you're a woman? You upload your license picture and they will verify it. Okay. That's a pretty high bar. I know people that stopped using certain spicy sites because you have to upload a government ID. So that's a high bar. Yeah. Unfortunately for T, 4chan figured out what it was. They probed them, found unsecured S3 volumes. Oh no. That were used by T to store these license photos and all their information. This is awful. Seriously? Like first of all, they used, so S3, that's like an Amazon cloud service, basically, for those of you that don't know the terminology. Why would you not encrypt that? Why would you not have defenses around that so that some folks like the 4chan folks would try and usually want them to not get in? That's awful. Really, really awful. Heroes, Trewa. Why didn't I see or hear your intro? Was I just in a rant and I didn't catch it? Wait a second. The intro didn't even trigger. The bot's live. Wait, is the bot signed in? I promise I'll get to you. I'm just... Or Jam, I promise I'll get to the rest of your stuff, but I'm curious what's going on. Account. Signed in. Signed in. Signed in. Signed in. Signed in and signed in. What the heck? Everything's on. I'm so confused. I don't know. I'm sorry, Troa. I can't. My bots are just... You know what it reminds me of? Because we've been watching a lot of Marvel movies. It reminds me of everyone who's not Jarvis in Tony Stark's apartments or wherever he happens to be. Because he always has like Jarvis, who's an immensely amazing assistant. And then everyone else is like so-so. Dunce cap status. Yeah. That's what I feel about streamer bots. Sometimes I hate to say it. This is a beautiful bot that is literally made by one person. But sometimes it's very depressing. Okay. So, basically all that was leaked to the dark web in database dumps. This is a bunch of women's government IDs or driver's licenses. So all the women that thought they were making this database of men had all their personal information leaked to all the crazy incels on the dark web and 4chan. Oh, God. Now T is offline. Don't blame them for that. Not one bit. Jeez. The company might be out of business and probably the target of a class action lawsuit, because if my information was leaked in that capacity, a website that is promising to make your personal, intimate dating and etc. life more secure and then leaks all of your information, that's a special level of heinous. Amazing. So now the men could get that and enact retribution. Yeah. If they knew where people lived who snubbed them, if an incel found out where his favorite person that decided he was not worth their additional attention lived and wanted to do something about that, good God. This is the hazard of making scoring apps. Well, I mean, so this isn't the hazard, though. That last part is the logical fallacy about what you're saying, though, right? And that's the fact that you have a company that did really shitty SecOps. In fact, the worst SecOps. They didn't have their own in-house servers. which I get is extremely expensive. Big companies, big companies, top 5 in their industry companies do not necessarily use their own servers. I should know. I've worked for a couple of them and I know who they use, and a number of them use Amazon S3. S3 can still be well secured. You can use a rented server in somebody else's data warehouse somewhere and redundancies around the country and have fantastic security. And it would behoove you to do so if you wanted to be a business 5 years down the line from now. That's really not an issue with social scoring, right? That is an issue with the worst kind of SecOps. And even the company I work for today in my day job has opportunities. I'm not going to start talking about them openly because I don't want legal to find me. But yeah, it's an issue. Another fledgling has entered. Welcome, Sam. We'll catch up to you in just a sec. Yeah, that's a problem. Now, my social scoring app that I have just conceptualized has issues, definitely has issues, but I would argue that SecOps is not among them, not least of which because it's just theoretical. But if it were implemented, I mean, if you're talking about exchanging of multiple platforms and localization, or not, sorry, location services and all these sort of things, you'd have to have the absolute highest level. You would need your app to be tested at a government level for security. You would want to submit your app to every DEF CON every year and say somebody else try to break this so that we can figure out how to keep everything safe and secure. You would do everything in your power. You would spend the most money on that side of things. Yeah, not least of which because it will keep you out of prison. And if not prison, at least out of litigation, which would cost way more than just paying for good SecOps. I'm a bit surprised that T hasn't gotten a lawsuit for libel yet. Exactly. Or not libel? I don't know about libel, but definitely just for security breach, right? I'm sure that's all coming when someone gets murdered or stalked over this. 100%. Poor IT/programming habits, that's why. This is way bigger than just regular habits, though, because you could be a bad programmer, but if you work for a good company that has demands on your SecOps, especially for cloud storage, then you could have shitty devs as long as somebody's overseeing the whole thing and saying, hey, in order for us to keep this security certificate for the company, what, like those IESCC, blah, blah, blah. I forget all the letters in the abbreviations, but there are certain like security certifications that you can get that you can then show to potential clients, angel investors, this sort of thing, so that you can keep the money flowing and so you can keep the confidence up and so that your stock shares continue to go up and up. In order to do all this, you have certain compliance standards that you need. Then it's not on the developer level. The developers just, they have to cohere because they want their job. And if you're the dev who fails to match the protocol, then 1, a compliance officer will find it. 2, you'll be canned almost immediately. So that kind of stuff wouldn't stick. My intro sound played. I mean, you don't have a specific intro though. Not yet. You and I need to talk, Jam. And I agree, Twitch is rude, but this isn't the Twitch thing. I think this is a streamer bot thing. Yeah, but why would you ever trust any company to do that? There's where one of the issues with my company or with my app comes to a head, is for all the things that I need to collect to produce a proper social score, the way to filter out people so that you don't get doxxed, so that you don't get hate rated, so that you don't have bad actors who just go around and negatively rate a bunch of people because they're just angry at the world. and so their votes shouldn't matter as much. All those kind of things require some massive information about all of those people so that you know who to weed out, who to buff, who to debuff, so that their scores make sense in the grand scheme of things. That kind of stuff can't happen unless you have massive amounts of permission. And in that regard, maybe the only way you get around that is if somebody downloads the app, you're like, okay, well, you're going to waive stuff to use it. Everybody can download the app so that if it becomes famous, it becomes famous. You get lots of downloads. You see those downloads numbers, in the Play Store or wherever it is that you download your apps. But once you've downloaded it, you can't sign in or you can't use the service or you can't search anybody else's profile until you have agreed to say, I willingly give over all of this data to make it work. And that's bad. A lot of people wouldn't want to do that. It would freak out a lot of folks, and there's a lot of compliance and just scary issues involved with that. And I get that that's one of the biggest issues with an app with the concept that I'm trying to create. Yeah. Remind me about iCloud and the iCloud photo leak once I catch up with chat, because this is relevant to what we're talking about. And I know some stuff about that. It's just a bad fucking move to put that information online in a way that could tie back to you. I mean, in certain circumstances, like in the case of a man possibly learning about the women that snubbed him, and he's now upset and he wants to do something about it. I would also argue, though, if you had an app that could track somebody's information at the level of, did these two people go on a date together? And how often did that happen? If it could track that level of granularity, then perhaps it could also track if a man's this is now like theory crafting way deep down the rabbit hole. This is not my project that I want to make into fruition, right? So don't think that the things coming out of my mouth are incredibly serious. I'm going down a philosophical rant here. But let's say if it could track all that kind of stuff, couldn't it also track if a man's behaviors started to act erratic around somebody who had dating history with them, and now they are reconnecting without any sort of DMs, text messages, phone calls, emails being shared back and forth between the two of them, i.e., you see their location data start to converge again, i.e., he's trying to follow her to her work, or he's trying to find out who she's dating now. If that kind of information happens, wouldn't it immediately flag for law enforcement to be like, yo, we need to check on this guy. He's doing something very questionable and we just need to see what's going on. You know, maybe because of that, they would have reasonable suspicion or reasonable doubt and would be able to subpoena his download manifest to be able to see that he's gathered black market data on this woman and is now using it in a negative way. I don't know. I feel like there are ways around it. If we're gonna expand to the future where my app works, then we could also expand to the future where law enforcement and reporting and big data can also out somebody if they start to act in a way that's going to be deleterious to somebody else's lifestyle. I'm not talking about Minority Report shit where they like go and arrest somebody for not committing a crime. Just there are certain things that would be big flags for, hey, we see some incredibly negative behavior and we ought to be able to do something about that ahead of time to see if there's a failure to comply to law. I know it could be secure, but that doesn't mean it will be secure. I mean, that's true, but everybody said that about stuff like online marketplaces, right? back when the internet first started saying, we have goods for you to buy. You can put in your personal credit card. We'll charge it. We'll send you the goods. We promise your house will get the goods. That was a really scary time, right? We made a big jump in trust. But then the ultimate gains that we got and the overall continued use year after year after year that solidified that the vast majority of people were supported by this experience proved its worth. I think that the exchange of your own personal data at a very high level, openness and transparency into a network where everybody else was doing the same would provide more net benefit as long as you had very strong protections and very high level punishments for anybody who acted in discretion to those laws. You could make it work just like we've made leaps of faith before in the past. Those women took that risk and lost. They haven't necessarily lost anything yet, right? Other things have been leaked on the dark web expansively, and in fact multiple times, like social security numbers. And it used to be that social security was something that was used as like a way to protect your identity or a form of encryption or password or something, just to prove, you'd call into an institution and say, okay, Mr. Hallmay, just to verify your background, can I just get like the last 4 of your social, please? And we'll get your account set up here and all that sort of stuff. Like that kind of stuff existed at one point, but Social Security has been breached so many times it's laughable. We can't use that shit anymore, right? Every single person in the US, their Social Security number's probably been leaked more than once in the history of data leaks to the rest of the world. So that stuff doesn't even matter. And what we should do is just not use that. I mean, it was never invented to be an encryption standard, so why would it have ever, I don't know. It was a bad practice to even try to use that in any sort of secure fashion in the past anyway. So the right answer is data breaches and certain types of information should not be important. And the vast majority of dark web, knowing about somebody's address, probably can't do anything locatively to that person anyway. So it's really about the numbers game of getting that information to the right, like snubbed incel red pill sort of guy, where the danger happens. I'd argue that amount is probably significantly less. I'm not saying that's a good thing or that's fine or that the positive things that T did far outweigh the negatives. I think they fucked up majorly. But I don't think like every woman who used the app lost when their data was breached, right? It's some percentage of that. Sam says, playing the devil's advocate for a moment, why should someone posting private information about another individual deserve anonymity themselves? That's a good point. I do think if you're posting about somebody's level of danger and you yourself are not a dangerous person, then you should expect some level of anonymity, right? And our current law enforcement supports that. That's why we have anonymous tip lines, right? You're able to say, hey, I see something that is potentially against our current legal framework. You guys are law enforcers. We need you to go protect them. And I want to be able to report that knowing that nothing is going to get back to me. I want that support and infrastructure. And if I don't have that, maybe I'm too scared to make the reporting. And I think we used to have that, which is where anonymous tipping came from. Prior to that, some people would say, hey, yeah, I would have told the feds, but I got eyes on me all up in this neighborhood, or I had previous ties to that family or to the family, the mafia, or whatever it happens to be. And so you might have something that you need to say or share to make other people safe, to make tons of people safe. But to put yourself at risk to make all those other people safe was disfavorable, too much. And so I do feel like there's a certain amount of deserved anonymity for those people that would report very negative situation. Now, I don't know how T works. If it was something where you reported potential, like somebody who did not properly understand consent, i.e. could, in theory, if given the right evidence, be convicted of denying people consent. I'm trying to use certain words so I don't get, like, you know, de-algorithmed or whatever. If you're trying to save other people in that regard, yes, I agree certain anonymity should exist. Now, if it's just a, we're all just going to shit on this person, this is like my personal Regina Byrne book from Mean Girls or whatever, and I just, you know, I hate the way he kissed. Does anybody else agree with me? Oh, yeah, and like, you know, 4 or 5 other girls in your neighborhood who've also dated him are also like, yeah, he kisses like a dead fish. Like his lips are, oh, it's just so gross. Then do you deserve anonymity? Probably not. So I think, you know, depends on how tea is actually being used and what sort of information is really being brokered there. I think what makes your concept better than the actuality of tea is that yours isn't like targeting men. While I understand that men, yes, have certain physical advantages, I don't think that relationships or that women reporting men are necessarily enough of a user base to make things feel fair or right. I think that's very polarizing, limiting. It's a little bit homophobic to talk about women who date men and not have any other sort of support. It's kind of trans exclusionary because now you're questioning, you know, what's somebody's like, what defines a woman in order to, there's so many like reasons why this app is sort of like a social nightmare and bomb in so many different ways. I'm literally just talking about, and this is the way all human interfacing really should be. You're a human and another human interfaces with you. They're your boss, your coworker, your service representative for... Shit, some people are going to miss this, but I'm going to continue on with my rant. Oh, well. Your service representative, like you're making somebody coffee or giving them food at a restaurant or whatever. You are providing healthcare. You are... and you are also a patient or a customer or a dating partner or whatever. You're also you're the client and or the provider, and you are judging the other person who is also a client or your provider or your client when you have a job. Every possible relationship has metrics for rating in them, and it should be equitable. A system like this should be about how you feel about everyone, and everything should be taken into account. If you are rating everybody negative on a random day, it's just like literally everyone you do business with or everyone you talk to or relating to on a given day, you're giving negative scores or low scores to. And then it turns out like you had something really critically negative happen to you, and you're doing a lot of voting that goes against a lot of the user base on a given day. Well, you just get de-weighted, right? On that day, maybe all of your votes will count because that's kind. That's kind to do and say, okay, you know, maybe, yeah, people are being a little bit extra rude to you or seeing somebody who's down on their luck and kicking you while you're down or whatever. But your weighting should go down lower because you're also using your awful day to sort of like lash out at everybody all at once. People that other people say are beloved in their community, you're lashing out. Or you're part of a hate raid. That should be obvious. Or for whatever other reasons, you know, there should be so many different rules and regulations on this in order to make it work. And it definitely should not be exclusionary of any two people, regardless of what race, gender, relationship they have. Just two people relate. And if they have anything to report on each other, fine. If they don't have anything to report on each other, that's fine too. And you can report up the wazoo at somebody who doesn't have the app and is not participating, and they don't have a score. They shouldn't get a score. If you opt out of this sort of service, you should have 0 score, and that should be fine too. That happened in Nosedive. That should happen in the real world too. If that app ever came to a real existence, if somebody says, I hate this game and I don't want to do it, should we compel them to have a number? Should we have a number behind their back? No. They should say that it should be like Greenland in every statistic map. Hate to say it, Greenland. I love you. You guys look awesome. It's a very icy, cool place. But every time there's a statistical map, Greenland says no data or whatever. It's like, all right, that's fine. There should be people that are just no data for the social score app. Yeah. It would be for everyone. Yeah. So all the angry nerds that hate things that target men dating won't have a grudge against it. And if you're an angry nerd, people should have scores against you. If you're constantly lashing out in anger, don't you think people would react to that? They might look at your Reddit post history, or they might see what sort of things you do. Maybe you're a content creator or whatever happens to be. There's so many reasons why if you're an angry nerd, you probably have a footprint out there that people are reacting to. Their reactions should lower your score if all you're creating is vitriol. And then your negative reactions about other people should be de-weighted. If you yell and rant that this game sucks because it's, you know, woke or whatever, then the algorithm's definitely looking at you and says, oh, well, you're the sort of person that shits on everything and nobody appreciates your opinion on things. So when you share an opinion about something, your rating doesn't weigh the same. It just makes sense, right? Just a subset of them. It's really easy to set up an S3 and ignore the warnings about it being left on a default credential. I feel like that's problematic on S3 side of things then too. I've never personally set up the configurations on S3, but if your default is like, yeah, we have very high security, but we leave all this stuff kind of turned off until you say you need otherwise for your business, it's not grand. I'd much rather have the opposite situation. When we switched internet providers so that I could do multi-stream, not among other things, it wasn't just to do multi-streaming, but to do the kind of streaming I do and a bunch of other reasons, we switched internet service providers. And the new one that we got, I was not allowed to use my personal purchased modem to connect with their services. We have to use their modem, which I'm not in love with, but I accepted. And their modem has firmware that has configuration software that you can access. And you look in their security and everything is turned on. Everything is turned on so stringent that I lost access to a bunch of things I had already had set up very nicely on my modem and router and everything that I had previously. So it's like I have to go through and peel off protections, which feels like I'm inviting, you know, danger into my house. But really, it's just I already have other protections set up and they were conflicting with each other. And that's the bigger problem. Wasn't that I don't like protections. It's that my created, you know, walls that we hide behind here in this household were then hitting other proprietary stuff through this internet service provider. It was just, yeah, it was a bunch of garbage. But I'd love a scenario where any new company you work with, if there is a place for them to apply security protocol, they apply it to its fullest and then say, all right, what would you like to do? Where would you like to start disabling things to get it to where, you know, it serves your business? Not the other way around. Not default is pretty much loosey-goosey. Do you care about hackers? Well, you better start learning about our, you know, are alternatives for configuration, because otherwise you're pretty fucked. Yeah, I don't. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's so. But I've dealt with a lot of Amazon things, and I kind of, to a certain degree, I kind of get it. It's an annoyingly easy mistake to make. Assuming the company is a large company and not a scrappy startup like was the case with T. Scrappy startups probably have the most... What's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility on their shoulders to do things very delicately. The more information you need to get from people, the more critical it is for you to get security right. Otherwise, this might not just be a small entrepreneur failing and then hoping maybe in another 10 years to get enough of a runway to start again. This could be the end of a career for you, or the end of your autonomy if you got jail time for the amount of trouble that you caused for lack of security. The libel lawsuit I was thinking would come from men claiming damages due to information the women on the app shared. So the thing with libel is it would have to be published in a way that shows malicious intent and is not an opinion on something, right? It's sort of like stating of like factual data, which it would be pretty easy to put in the terms of service on the app. Like nothing on here represents the views of the company and are explicitly just the opinions of the individual users or whatever. I could see ways that the terms of service could skirt libel. Yeah. At that point, the women would have to prove the issues exist in court. Libel is also very hard to prove too, so there'd probably be a lot more onus on the men to prove that they were materially hurt in some way, that their reputation was materially damaged by the opinions of the women being shared on the app. I think that's a hard case to make for the men. Yeah. Isn't always possible in these issues in order to avoid severe penalties, similar to other suits done to other websites for publicizing potentially inaccurate and damaging info. Yeah. I think it's tricky. I wish it weren't, because I wish it were much easier to get facts, negative facts about somebody out there debunked if they're not true. I feel like it's a little bit too easy sometimes for a fabricated story to take wings and then not be able to be beaten down, because libel is such a hard lawsuit to land. But yeah, I don't know. That's just where it happens to be right now in the legal infrastructure. Online marketplaces are only as secure as the company running it. That's very true. Both Silk Road and Amazon are an online marketplace. One founder is in prison. The other is the richest man on the planet. So I'm guessing that he's got some say as to how future legislation works against or for him. Although he's not necessarily... Is he still tied to Amazon? He stepped down from CEO, right? What kind of ties does he still maintain to the company? They could have and just not reported it. The database has been on the dark web for only a month or something. Also, my lottery ticket did win, but it wasn't a huge amount. Well, congratulations. I'm glad it won. It was enough to pay off the last of the bill left from my last ER visit. Oh, okay. I mean, RNGesus still did you a solid. I won't say that I'm not a little crestfallen that you won't suddenly be my first, unicorn investor. But to see medical debt get paid off is pretty fucking sweet. That's good stuff. If RNGesus was going to do anything for you, that's pretty amazing. Knowing about somebody's address is one thing. Knowing that they reported you to a dating T website and it spewed your personal details and the relationship stories out. It didn't say that that was part of the leak, though. You said that that their IDs were part of the leak. Now, was that tied to profile information about what they reported about everybody, because that's a whole other horse of a different color, or however you want to call it. If that were the case, if women's profiles both showed their ID and who they reported in the site, that's fucked. Then T is whoever the people that own T. I mean, that's got to be jail time. That's got to be jail time, because people trusted that site to give that kind of information. So if those things are linked together and on the dark web together like that, you're fucked. The owners are, or at least willing to get revenge in some other way. Exactly why I would presume that someone would sue. Probably. I don't know if that would be a libel suit then, or if I would say the women have the greater chance of suing for, depends on what the terms and service are too. I mean, I hate this, but the fact is terms and service are not read. And because they're not read, small companies can explicitly state their shortcomings and say, our S3 server doesn't have good security. Your comments could possibly appear in, data leaks or whatever. And we waive all rights to, or you waive all rights to litigate against us. I mean, there's so many companies where the terms of service say if there's a litigable shortcoming or failing or offense that we have committed as a company, you by signing this terms of service, refuse or waive the rights to litigation against us. And you must manage this through arbitration instead. Arbitration, generally a much easier, lower bar for companies to defend themselves in. And if there is some sort of settlement or situation, it's usually far cheaper. I don't know all the strategy there, but arbitration has been like the new way to keep big companies out of litigation and especially out of class action lawsuits. Although some enterprising lawyers, I can't believe I know this much about the legal system because like 10 years ago I didn't know shit. There are some enterprising lawyers who are trying to figure out a way to to restructure or create a new modeling of class action litigation, but using the arbitration model in order to do it. And part of it involves doing mass single arbitration cases against a particular defendant. So like, 10,000 plaintiffs in individual cases. So it's a little bit different than a class action, which ends up being like one court case and just like spamming the holy shit out of somebody, which previous to big data and AI and the abilities that law firms can do because of legal software, before this, there's no way. Could you send out 10,000 plaintiffs to attack the same defendant? It'd be impossible. And now it's starting to become possible. So those clauses may go away in terms of service. The idea that you could waive your litigative rights because it might not be defending them the way they thought they would for very long. Any woman could report anything they want on the men, truthful or no. Yeah. But on top of that, they had like government record searches for people you could pay extra for, like look up their criminal, banking, credit, or rental histories. That's a problem. Now you gone and fucked up. Now that's like dirtying the data. As soon as you got a paywall there where all of a sudden you're doing like dirt slinging PI sort of work on somebody, you're really getting their deets. That's just, yeah. I see the money grab. I see the opportunity for revenue, but you've definitely sullied what it is you're doing when you get that deep in. That's no good. Not good at all. And I'm imagining they're not doing the right filtering, like I have said. If you are a liar about people, you regularly post lies about people online. So you've gone on and you've mentioned all your dating partners in really negative ways. You've detailed all of your experience and all this sort of thing. And it just does not line up with what other people say. The rest of the community is like, they are great. And if we're using, my app, again, we're not talking about dating. So somebody could get a reputation from other stuff and be bad at dating. And that would all need to be taken into configuration or taken into the filters, right? Because, and I'm sure we all know this, it could happen. I know people personally. In fact, I'm kind of closely connected to some people, loath as I am to admit this, that are stellar community people. They're involved deeply with their church. They do good stuff for their neighbors. They're gift givers. They're always trying to look for, well, I've got some extra revenue and I heard this person has this dream and I want to make this come to reality. And then there's that one little shitty thing about their lives, and it is not so little. It's shitty. It is potentially illegal. They're in an open, defiant, and possibly ready to be arrested position in their lives if just certain things would lock into place. But you look at their record in the community and with everybody else, and they look so stellar. So one, you'd need to be very protective of situations like that. If somebody gets negative dating reviews, but positive everything else reviews, their score needs to have some nuance there, right? They shouldn't have a stellar score if their dating score is off. But their dating score also needs to be reflective of basically only the people who have dated them, and that those people generally report other things that are commonly trending. They say positive and correct things about positive and correct people. They complain about people that everybody else complains about. They have a rigorous engagement with the app in order to get that sort of information locked in on somebody. I could see it working as long as it was, again, you'd have to be very cautious so that people could say anything they want and then something would happen because they did. That if you lied, your profile would change, or your ability to change other profiles would be altered. Crime/criminal behavior is another thing entirely. 100%. Yeah. It's interesting. I wasn't aware that the burden of proof is on the accuser in such cases. Yeah. Libel and slander, both. Those are, basically like printed and or spoken lies about generally somebody who has some sort of public presence or who has a widespread presence, and generally has to involve malicious intent, material damages, and a few other criteria that make it pretty difficult to make a case for that it's actually happened. Yeah. Bezos is still the majority stockholder? Okay, so possibly able to be causing big, what's the word I'm looking for? Policy shifts to the company. He controls the board. Yeah, it sounds like it. As far as I know, all the stuff they reported was part of the leak that was the app. So it's like everything, including what they rated people. I encourage you to look it up, T, and read the story for yourself. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Although tonight, I'm trying to quit my stream early because tomorrow, in fact, I might have to quit pretty quick. I can't believe how late it's already gotten. I can't believe I've already streamed for like 2.5 hours and we didn't. I was like, and we didn't do shit. No, we had a good conversation, which I super appreciate. And yeah, I don't know that we've even completely paved out what I was trying to talk about for what the next couple weeks will be for me and Oz trying to get our schedules set up, which we will before I end the stream. I promise. Yeah. But that is something I do want to look up now. Thanks. Thank you for sharing this. Just broke this week. Yeah, definitely cool. Perfect Craft. Hi and welcome. Hey there, D. Trusting a source of information is a really tough and old problem. Certainly. And I mean, it's harder now, right? Because the veracity of information that we get is so, it's, I guess I'll use the term spooky now, right? Because people are grabbing information from dubious sources that are made and set up in a way to manipulate and alter us. right? Whether that is the opinion of a person based on like Reddit forums and other content creators posting reactions to somebody and all that kind of stuff. They influence the masses to think a certain way. News media using bigger and bigger propaganda. Companies just using psychology, right? Companies study us and look at our big data and gather information about us so that they know how best we react. Maybe in ways that we haven't even considered ourselves because we don't have a big data view on our lives, but companies do. So if they're just trying to sell you paper towels, they kind of know more about your habits of spending in grocery stores and what kind of foods you get. Are some of those foods more messy than others? How often do you buy in bulk versus singles? Like they know so much about you that you probably don't pay any attention to in order to get more connectivity with you. Companies do A/B testing. This is something that I hate to say because I hate manipulation, right? But I'm looking into some of this stuff, some commercialization and business building aspects so that I can grow this very content creation brand that you're consuming right this moment. Just to cover the needs of this household. I'm not trying to like take control of you and buy into your household or buy into your house and manipulate you to do stuff. I'm just trying to pay some bills. That's about it. That's if I get that done, anything else is cherry on the top. But one thing is like A/B testing. So, you know, people will create an advertisement for their goods and it'll hit a certain demographic in a certain way, and then they'll make a variant that's overlapping in some ways but fairly different in others. They really want to push two different agendas that ultimately both converge in on please buy into my product or please consume more of me or whatever it happens to be. And then they'll put those out to the world and they'll test it across kind of similar demographics. And then you want to see which does better, A or B. And whichever one does better, you've learned something very impressive about your community just from a simple binary of two different ways to advertise. So yeah, it's really hard to trust anybody, companies, politicians, content creators. Everyone's coming at you from some agenda. The only reason why I hope you will trust me is that we're talking about trust. You know, I'm trying to be the person that if you're going to listen to anybody, you should listen to me because I'm going to tell you don't listen to me. Because I want to be disproven. I want people to look up facts and data. And then I want, if we start to adopt that, you know, okay, well, look at this. You know, these three sources that Jam, you know, sent me all seem to say blah, blah, blah. And so our hypothesis now is this. And then have somebody else from chat pop up and say, I've got this great peer-reviewed, double-blind, nonprofit funded study that seems to be very anti-biased, and it's very much against those three sources that you just cited. It's like, oh shit, you know, well, to go against Jam's claim then, let's read this and figure this out. And the practice and policy of looking at your life through the lens of what could we be doing better? How could we look at this in a different way? How could we understand our opposition better? How could we feel and suss out where we're being manipulated, altered, converged in on somebody else's goals and not our own? And how do we make our goals make more sense to us? That's our goal. That's my goal. That's what I want to do with you. And so I only want you to trust me to the point where we all come together and work on trusting less. Not to make us a bunch of crotchety, you know, hateful skeptics where we don't trust anybody. Oh yeah, I'll cite your sources. That, oh, you give me a quote. All right, well, I've got that book. Give me a page number. You know, not to go absolutely ballistic, but at least to start developing better truth-finding resources than oh, I've done my research. I'm a researching sort of person. And you literally just fucking listen to Joe Rogan all the time. That's your research. And you hope that he's done his research. Spoiler, he has not. What if we use these same tools to make the world better rather than the accumulation of capital? Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't I love that? I ultimately, past governing the basic bills of this house, which are actually pretty low. We do not have a high cost quality of life. Oz and I are not consumer type people. We don't even buy for like we do some self-care, but like in terms of like bathing and toiletries and stuff like that. We don't self-care with like Coach bags and Dolce & Gabbana and Armani suits and new shoes and latest, kicks and trips around the world. That's because that just recenters us so well. Fuck that. We're just like homebodies who sometimes go out cool places so that our kids get some formative experiences as they grow up. And we're like the least havinist household when it comes to like buying shit and buying into the whole capitalist nightmare. So we get our shit taken care of through content creation, then everything else that I want to do is just like expansion of and development of making this world a better place for all you guys and for everyone you know and for everyone they know. That'd be my dream, really. You should always trust me. You should never trust Stuart. That thing that he just said, don't trust even that one line. Makes it easier to trick you when you do. Yeah. Stuart is, he's not quite a goblin like Oz or Gavin, but he's basically, I want to say he's like half goblin or maybe like Fae. I feel like Stuart, while he's not like he doesn't get like cackly or like shove snacks down his throat or like I feel like there's a number of ways in which he's not very much like a classical goblin. But he is more like Fae in that he wants to create like a false covenant with you and then steal your name. Yeah. Jamie looked that up. I kind of wish I got that with all of you guys because a number of you are really good at doing fact checking and actually finding like especially studies, which we've brought up online a number of times. We just sat and like read a study or read like a legal document or whatever, that's right in my wheelhouse. And I love, getting to that level with you guys. Absolutely. I don't love the fact that Jamie seems like the person that has the interest and the research and the investment and he's not the star. Probably just because he doesn't have the gift of gab, he's not media trained that way. You don't put him on face camera and with a mic and have him talk for long periods of time. You just cut to him while he says something and then you let him go. But works for them. Their formula seems to work amazingly well for the demographic they're trying to reach out to. Trusting you just means poor decisions were made. True. You have claimed to be a Fae? Well, I don't believe that now. Never mind, I lied. I don't think Stuart's a Fae. If he says he's a Fae, then I super don't believe him on that one either. The plan. It's already like 2. I have to be up extremely early. Ought to be up in 4 hours. And I still have to like brush my teeth and everything and get ready for bed. So let me wrap this up. But I do want to actually say the stuff that I promised I would say tonight. I know on Sunday we did talk about like, oh, I might do some streamer bot things. Not going to happen. Oh, we might talk about like the MMO that I might build one day if I got like crazy amounts of venture capital. Not going to happen. Not tonight. But I will at least say going forward, this Saturday, oh God, this water is so terrible. I really need the new filters in the filter. This Saturday and Sunday are probably going to be the same as they always have been. Kids haven't started school yet. They don't start until Monday. So Saturday and Sunday are pretty much unaffected. So the puzzle game stream, which Saturday is going to be a different game than it has been since we just beat Myst 5. But it will be another game that if you have access to Envy, you already know. And if you don't, you'll find out on Saturday. That's happening 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And then same time frame on Sunday, we're going to be playing more Omori. Those are still happening as per usual. But going forward with the next week, with a week from today, this next Wednesday, schedule might change pretty dramatically. If you want to be up on what the schedule will be, I will probably have it posted on the NV Knowledge Base, I'll probably post on Discord, just a one post. I'm not going to pin it or anything, but you find it like in comments or somewhere else or Mouthpiece or whatever. I don't know. And then on Twitch, I feel like I have this saved in my like profile on YouTube and Kick and stuff like that too. So I may have to go there and make adjustments there. When I change it, I will try to change it absolutely everywhere. So whatever happens to whatever platform you happen to watch me on, I'll probably have that information there. You'll be able to follow it going forward a week from today. But a lot of it requires that conversation Oz will have with the local mortuary to understand what are the requirements to become funeral director in Georgia. And is that something that is attainable, desirable, and still part of her dream and greater plan? That will adjust and alter what she wants to do for content creation, which will inform how I go about building my brand and developing that out. And I have other conversations to make with a few other folks that I'm talking to who have said they were interested in helping the building of this brand into possibly like paid employment kind of situation. So there's so much to talk about and figure out like how it's all going to pan out. And I figure these next couple of weeks, a lot of those logistics will be hashed out in deep conversations and heart-to-hearts and personal soul searching among several of us as far as like how we're going to be using our time and what's going to be happening going forward. So it's a lot in the mix. The big answers for me that you can expect are trying to get my streams earlier so that I get more sleep, because I know you all care about my sleep more than I do. I'm trying to care more. I am trying to be more human. And I know that I talk better. I engage with you better. I talk faster. I get more ideas across. We have higher level conversations when I am more well rested. I don't slur or stutter my words as much. You could definitely tell. I watch some of my older streams and there's sometimes where I'm like just trying to get a word out and it sounds like I'm streamer brained, but it's like in the first 30 minutes of the stream and I'm just like, oh, how do I get this word off my tongue? And it's just like by a certain point in the night, because I'm sleeping only 4 hours a night, and I've been doing that for like 6 years, that more than 6 years now, that sometimes my brain works faster than my mouth can carry. And a lot of those nights, I'll admit to you, like if we're watching a movie or a show together later on in the evening, I'm drifting off or I'm completely passed out. Then we do the bedtime routine with the kiddos, and we're in their room, putting them down, giving them last minute cuddles and whatever, you know, just the wind down routine. And sometimes I'm passing out there too, like just asleep. And so the kid that I'm responsible for, because Oz and I each do one kid and then swap every night. Sometimes that kid's bereft of me as a resource. That sucks. Sucks to feel like, well, I'm just passed out while both kids are, you know, double engaged with Oz and I'm just not there. So getting more sleep is in my interests so that I can be better for them, for you, and finally for me, because I'm kind of low on the totem pole. I need to care more about myself, and I'm trying. I am trying. Self-deprecation jokes aside, I am trying. So that's a big thing. Changing format so that there's more room for open conversations. The just chatting streams have been so much more popular this year than I ever expected. It's like I hear you, and I definitely know while there are certain multiplayer and crazy and chaotic games that I enjoy to play because of the socialization aspect, that's not necessarily the brand that I'm building. And so I'm also working on developing a schedule out that supports what I want to provide as a legacy and what you guys want to have as your consumption. And so I'm taking it all in. And on top of that, like in these next couple weeks, while I say I have these internal conversations to have with all these private people and with Oz and all this sort of stuff, feel free to reach out. I have DMs right now lit up right now from people who are like you, who are either like you or are you, some of you. It's just folks in audience who message and say like, hey, you know, what if we tried this, or have you considered doing this? And some of them, even though I haven't done them yet, and you have talked about them to me, I have them on my docket. There are things that, while I said, that's an interesting idea, and I haven't done it for a few months, it's not to say that I'm not doing it or that I won't do it. It's to say maybe I just haven't started yet. But don't be dissuaded if I go, yeah, that's a great idea, and then you don't see me do it in the next stream. Some things just take time to simmer or plot or figure out how to do, or yeah, just takes time. But that said, that means go pester me. There will be a few days between now and my next stream. My next stream is Saturday. So pester me in DMs. Say, yo, D, you know, I see streamers that are 20 times larger than you, successful, you know, they're actually paying their bills doing this, and they do this and you don't. Have you thought about it? Have you thought about being more like this person? Have you considered this? Have you tried this yet? If you like what you see so far and you'd like to see more of it, and you know Oz, and you sometimes see one of the littles sneak up behind her to get in our streams, we try to avoid that. They're starting to learn to dodge the camera, since they're still of an age where it's like, we probably don't want you on live stream. But if you want this whole household thing to succeed and you want to help us out, you've got great ideas that we haven't started yet, let us know. Super appreciate everything that you have to offer to help us out on that road. All right, I will catch up with chat, and then I will go to sleep so I get some hours of sleep before the morning. I have accepted the title more than claimed it for my own. Stuart meaning being called a fae. Also, as a fae, I find it upsetting that so many people no longer use their true name due to all the internet names. Well, sucks to be you. Did I ever tell you my middle name? Hopefully not yet. Makes my job much harder. Yeah, sucks to be you. Got lots of cold iron around my house too. Hope that's okay. My psychiatrist calls the fact that I can so regularly go without any sleep at all as a form of superpower. I would imagine that psychiatrists above all other people know how critical sleep is and would call it a super debuff of some sort. I'm like, well, if it were productive energy, maybe. Yeah, I could imagine if when I get 4 hours of sleep every night for so many years, I was suddenly able to do 3 times the amount of work that I can do when I get lots of sleep, then yeah, that'd be great. But I too have issues with productivity. Even though I sleep so little to try to get more productivity out of my day every day, I think I could do better with more sleep and less awake hours. Quick question, have you or your wife ever watched the show 6 Feet Under? Oz has watched the entire 6 Feet Under entire series twice through. Once when it was newer and once more recently. And it was part of her inspiration to go into mortuary science. She definitely had a lot of other more personal and more in life influences, and she's probably shared that story. Or if she doesn't, she'd be probably happy to share them with you. I'd rather she told you them because she gives you more holistic idea of the whole story. But 6 Feet Under was a non-zero contributing factor to her interest in becoming a mortician. It's the only show about funeral home directors I've ever watched. It's probably the only show about funeral home directors, or at least the only popular one. Yeah. In my honest opinion, one of the best show endings of all time. I've heard that before. I have only watched it in blips and blurps, so I can't say I really know the story very well, but it seems well acted, well written, well scripted, and yeah, just a very smart piece with a lot of interpersonal drama, which I really like. I just haven't time and spoons and all that sort of thing. People being crabby about timelines for ideas doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Changes aren't as simple as slapping a sticker on it and just jumping right in. And, you know, I only say that as a precautionary or prophylactic to anybody's complaints. Nobody's ever actually said to me, yo, D, I told you you should try this and I haven't seen you try it. That kind of sucks. Or like, I feel sort of butthurt about this or whatever. And I've had a number of people like flow in and out of closeness with me. And I never thought directly because I didn't do stuff that people wanted me to, that was a reason. But I also am getting to an age and a maturity level where I don't care. I want to do things right to make content creation a business. That doing right does mean that my boss is the audience. So I can't just ignore the interests of the masses. But if somebody's going to play the game like, hey, I gave you this idea and you didn't try it, so I'm just going to leave, like to hold me hostage over putting on the show that they want me to put on, that's not going to happen. I will chase stability first, and once I hit stability, I'll probably cut ties from trying to do things in other people's methodologies. In other words, you may see me put on the mascot, I mean, proverbially, put on the mascot suit, put on the stupid apron, do the things, you know, go through the motions of content creator growth and be more parasocial or jovial or wild or sponsor reading or all the things that are required of a person to grow a brand. But, and I've said this before, maybe off stream to some people, but I will definitely prime you guys with a wink and a nod like, hey, we're about to do some sellout shit to grow this shit so that we can get big. And the moment we get big, I'm using this stream and the last stream I talked about it and all the times I talk about it off stream as a covenant to where we are right now in our philosophy. That's not going anywhere. If I have to put it away and be somebody else for a little while, the singing, dancing, snowflake or whatever, to get the brand going, I'm not losing sight of where we started or what our original navigating philosophies are. In fact, I'd put them in the knowledge base or something if I had to, just to be certain that once the basics were covered as far as finances and business and all that sort of stuff, we drop the pretense immediately and go back to being authentic. Because if there's one thing I hate about talking heads, about the pseudo-intellectuals online, about the people who especially discuss politics or deep philosophies or that sort of thing, it's the amount of prestige, lying, covering, false personalities, cohering or advocating to what they think the audience will want to hear, chasing the algorithm, trying to get bigger and bigger. People who've definitely got their means of survival taken care of, and the way that they sell out at their core, like they probably are inside changing as a result of wearing the mask so hard. It makes me sad. And I think the internet needs more vulnerable and devoted to honest policies sort of people and streamers. Not honest policies, but I guess I mean to say, like, my guiding light will never disappear. I want everybody watching me to hold me accountable to it, even if I have to put it away. Once you see, oh, hey, D's actually, like, you know, making all the bills happen with this, then we pull that torch right back out. We're not allowed to become anything else or anyone else. We're not allowed to say, oh, the power or the responsibility or whatever has changed me. See how many more people are talking about this? They want to hear this. They want to hear it. So we got to say it. They want to hear it. We got to put on the show that the people want. No. Not me. Not me. The only thing I've seen that successful streamers do pretty consistently is stream 5 to 7 days a week. So I want to do something different than be a successful streamer. I've done the math on successful streaming versus successful VOD, like successful YouTube pre-recorded content. And YouTube always wins out in fiscal support, especially as a person's career ebbs and flows. Naturally, people get more popular and less popular as they continue to try to ride the algorithm, make stuff that's coherent and follows trends and tries to like connect to something where they're going to get really pushed by all the different platforms that they're on. They're going to fail some of the time and they're going to win some of the time. And in that ebb and flow, if that happens in streaming, the places where you start to really decline or shrink in your audience or in your revenue can really hurt if that's what you're doing. Whereas with VOD or like YouTube based revenue, ad based revenue, the older stuff can sometimes continue to float you as you go on, as you continue to make more content. So a bad, even an entirely bad year can be floated if the previous 3 years of content are rewatchable, i.e. they're not like, somebody like Phil DeFranco is, first of all, just a powerhouse who's like impossible to stop at this point, right? But imagine going back and rewatching one of his videos from like 2 or 3 years ago when he does a new show. It's kind of like the old VODs for him are quite irrelevant. So he's got a very different game going on. But with the right type of content, with stuff that's not necessarily just reaction, news, or politics about right now, but has some sort of lasting value where people would go back and glean something from it, and the world hasn't changed immeasurably in the last couple years, you get a much more sustainable revenue doing that kind of work. So I'd love to bring more live streaming in because I do well with the live format, I think. And I enjoy the connectivity since I'm a social extrovert and we don't have a highly connective in-person community here where we live. So you guys kind of are that for me. That said, it seems like VOD, at least initially, might be the better, safer bet for growth. So that I don't have to deal with the volatility of the live stream revenue. If you can find counterproof to that, though, I'm receptive to that, because if you find, it's actually quite easy to, if I stream 7 days a week and you can show the trajectory of that, like beats out YouTube VODing by a ton. I'm not married to the plan. If you see a better plan, set me on it. Being able to not care is the best. I am getting to that point. Having that callous, yeah. Gotta go to bed 1 million years later. Stop. I know, I do. I do have to go to bed, and I keep talking, and that's my fault, not yours. You can type all you want, and it's up to me to hit stop stream. Yeah, I do think that callousness is important. I think part of that callousness is what will keep us one of the more vulnerable and open and honest communities with higher growth. Because I think high growth and low callous, or in other words, too much susceptibility to your audience pressuring you, creates people who hear the audience saying, we want to hear more of this, or we hate when you talk about this, and somebody just says, God, I just love money so much, and the audience keeps disappearing whenever I'm too truthful, so I just got to give them the show they want. And then you just make a caricature out of yourself. Or worse, you completely lie so much that it really starts to become you. That after a while, after spitting the same rhetoric, the same talking points long enough, you kind of forget that there was anything else. And that's just what you say now. That's just what you think you believe, because it's been your talking point for so long just to chase the almighty dollar. Thank you guys for being here. If you've been watching on YouTube, Kick or Trovo, or RIP Instagram 1 hour into the stream immediately died, we're saying goodnight to you now. We'll see you again Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I love your faces. And if you've been safe, fed, and loved, make sure someone out there is too, please. I'm going to try to do the same thing in this household. I'll see you guys in a bit. Don't leave, people on Twitch. We got something for you.